Welcome to the White Sox REKAP Podcast. I am Ryan McGuffey. Well, it didn't take long after BA and I's last edition of the podcast. The White Sox struck over the weekend, landing Mune. I like that his name is Mune. We got an abbreviation. BA calls him M&M. He calls himself Mune. Mune Murakami is a Chicago White Sox, the Japanese slugger, left-handed slugger who hit 56 home runs in a season just in 2022, which is the Japanese single season all-time lead, is now a member of the White Sox on a 2-year, $34 million contract. His market, once thought to be very rich and plentiful on 5 to 6 year deals, started to shrink. And Chris Getz and the White Sox about a week ago got more and more involved. And over the weekend at midnight, roughly midnight, Saturday into Sunday morning, Chris Getz was awoken with a phone call that Mune Murakami is a Chicago White Sox. So we're going to break it down. What does this mean? Are the White Sox flipping the script and going to spend more as they trend towards that Cincinnati Reds club that BA and I want them? And it's all brought to you by SinusandSnoringMD.com. Cap, my great partner here at the REKAP, this guy was a snorer like you'd never believe. And then his wife, Mindy, said, no more. You're not going to sleep here. If you're going to keep snoring like that, you got to call my friends at SinusandSnoringMD.com. You could do the same. They speak English, Spanish, and Polish. They have locations in Oak Creek, Kenosha, Wisconsin, Mount Prospect, Lombard, and monthly Elgin pop-ups. It's winter. It's cold. And don't let the allergies sneak up on you. Start your season the right way. Visit SinusandSnoringMD.com or call 847-886-0875. I recommend SinusandSnoringMD.com because my guy BA, he snores. And I'm like, dude, you got to call our people. Mune Murakami is a Chicago White Sox, 2 years, $34 million. And they added a reliever to boot as well. We're going to discuss it on this edition of the White Sox REKAP Podcast, and it starts right now. Well, BA, what's up, buddy? We're taping this just a day before Christmas Eve and the Christmas season. So Merry Christmas to all of you listening. Merry Christmas to you, BA. And the White Sox, all of a sudden, are a lot more interesting with the addition of Mune Murakami. I liked how you nicknamed him on the last podcast we did, M&M. I put it out there that the White Sox were in the market and that his name was floated. I didn't know it was going to be that quick. His deadline was the 22nd, and on Sunday, the White Sox announced he's a new member of the Chicago White Sox. Now, look, all we've really seen, you and I, is the same video clips most people have seen on social media. But if you look at the stats and you look at the power, he's graded in some people have him as an 80 power, which you can explain what that means. But 70 to 80 power across the board. This guy's 25 years old. He was once thought to be a Shohei light, so to speak, because he doesn't pitch, but that type of power. And that's why a lot of people thought, when you look at MLB trade rumors and you look at ESPN, their predictions were, we had a 6-year for 22 per, I believe, was a contract, and there was a 5 for 95. So the market for this guy was originally robust and big. And then I think there's some flaws about defensively, what type of player is he, and then a high strikeout rate. But your take on the White Sox getting creative and signing Murakami to a 2-year deal?
Well, you better believe they're going to be a play on words here. Like M&M, there'll be a sponsorship in order here. Like, hey, let's call it what it is. The guy's not going to win any physique shows anytime soon. I mean, the body's going to be a concern, but hey, it plays, man. The one thing that I love about baseball, that I've always loved about baseball, you take a Paul Konerko and go tell him to play basketball, we're in trouble. Like some guys are just built to play baseball, and I think that they'll be able to. He'll be serviceable at first base, DH, but that bat will be in the lineup every day. And let me tell you, man, like that $34 million seems like a steal for somebody with his type of power. I mean, look at what we're doing nowadays with the average and everything. You hit 220 with 40 homers next year, the White Sox fans are going to be pumped.
Look, if this guy hits 30, okay, I know it's not always going to translate that, he's going to hit 45 or 50 home runs, but there's a lot that does translate. And not just that, the resources that they have in Major League Baseball are not the same as they are in Japan. He is probably going to initially have to get his feet wet in April and May. But I look at this from a protection standpoint, BA. I look at this for breaking up Kyle Teal and Colson Montgomery. And look at that lineup all of a sudden with the raw power, because Teal's going to hit 20 plus. Colson, we know now, is a 30 plus home run type hitter. And now you add Mooney to the mix. That 3-4-5 gets a little bit more interesting to game plan around for the Chicago White Sox. Yes, you're hanging your hat on a lot of development and guys taking the next steps in Teal and Montgomery. But that type of power, this team has struggled to hit home runs for the last 6, 7, 8 years. And you're talking about doing it from the left-handed side of the plate. I give the front office a lot of credit here because I'm not sure that they thought that they would be in the mix. I listened to some of the Chris Getz availability yesterday and some of his interview with our Chuck. And I think they were realistic to know early on in the process, they probably weren't in the 5 and 6 year type deals. But as this thing started to shrink and the market and the teams started to go, I don't know, let's wait and see, the White Sox got involved. And the Red Sox were involved at the end. The Pirates were involved at the end. But at the end of the day, Murakami picks the White Sox. I've seen some people say soft landing spot, but I looked at what Jeff Passan said. Jeff Passan called him the best bat remaining on the market. Think about that. That's Kyle Tucker. I don't think he's saying the best player, but the best power bat remaining on the market. And Ryan O'Hearn just signed with the Pittsburgh Pirates this morning as we tape this for 2 years, $29 million. 32 years old. You compare the two for 29, and O'Hearn was linked to the White Sox versus the upside of a 25-year-old Murakami. You just talked about this being a steal. Doesn't that tell you that? O'Hearn for 29 or Murakami for 34. Give me the question marks and that power at a 25-year-old body.
Yeah, and we don't know the details in their entirety yet. Obviously, the White Sox may have found something, or maybe somebody saw something on a physical that they didn't love in order to give this guy 5-6 years. But I'll tell you what, at 2 year, $34 million, I'm taking that all day. The guy's power is going to be there. Japan's highly competitive. The Yakult Swallows have always been predominantly one of the best teams in that league. He's doing it at a high level. It translates over here. The only thing that would concern me a little bit is just the same concerns we have for Colson at the beginning of next year, right? Like, how long is that learning process going to take where he starts the year as a White Sox? He's not going in there coming from AAA. The team's not already terrible. It's like there's going to be a lot of buzz when we come out of the gate in spring training, right? The White Sox are going to be 0-0. They're tied for first place the first game of the season. So when Mooney comes in there, Eminem starts smacking the ball around, we're going to look for some heavy, hard contact and minimal strikeouts. But again, you can strike out 200 times nowadays. If you hit 40 homers, 200 strikeouts isn't a big deal.
I agree. And you have different type of players, the Chase Maidross, the Edgar Carrolls that can work some at bats, Kyle Teal that can get on base, give you a higher on base percentage. Not every guy in your lineup needs a 360 on base or higher. That's just the case.
No, and to your point, Guff, you brought up a good point too. Like you're saying the heart of that lineup, that 3-4-5 is really nice. Well, look at how I've been a little bit hard. I've been kind of pressing Carroll and Maidross to step up. They need to hit 8 to 10 homers a year with the amount of at-bats and the opportunity they're getting in the ballpark. That now takes the pressure off them, saying now it's like have good at-bats and get on base. These three sluggers in the middle, the Teals, the Colson Montgomery, and now Eminem, man, that could be 70 homers right there if they really get after it.
By the way, that's realistic. Like you just said, that could be 70 homers. And sometimes I'll be like, come on, man. I'm not saying, come on, man. I'm not. Like there's a chance that Colson and Eminem, I love the Eminem thing, by the way. We're going to keep putting it into existence. That those two, I mean, here, we could do this. Montgomery and Murakami are Eminem. I mean, like,
no doubt. And Maidross. Eminem.
Dude, this is coming together all too easy. But those guys could combine for 60, 70 home runs. Just the two you had Kyle Teal to the mix, and it gets a lot more interesting. I like the low risk, high reward here. Get his feet wet with the White Sox. Then maybe he gets a bigger deal at the end of this 2-year deal. Maybe you're not where you want to be next year. He becomes a trade candidate, but maybe he just finds comfort here. And then the White Sox give him a bigger deal at the end of 2 years. I don't want to talk about what's going to happen 2 years from now, but let's talk about how the White Sox, 2 days after, and as we tape this today, the White Sox announced that they signed Sean Newcomb to a 1-year, $4.5 million deal. Now, Newcomb, per Jeff Passan, says arguably the best left-handed reliever left on the market. And you look at his breakdown last year, BA, pitched in Atlanta in 36 games, 51 and a third innings, had a 1.75 ERA before being traded to the Red Sox. He only appeared in 5 games with the Red Sox. 12 games, but he made 5 starts. My guess is that he was probably an opener. But you get a guy that when you look at the big package, in 92 and a third, struck out 91 hitters as a lefty.
I love that. Yeah.
So a power
I love the
arm,
versatility there, Guff. Like,
yeah.
I'm a huge fan of pitchers that go, hey, coach, Will Venable, hey, Chris Getz, sign me to a 1-year deal. I'll come in, I'll prove myself. You need me to start, I'll start. You want me to come in, be a back-end bullpen guy, or a guy that can come in and get us out of that jam in the 4th and take us to the 7th, 8th? I'm your guy there. So I love this sign.
So here's the kind of what comes next for the White Sox. I mean, there's been multiple articles about how this has turned the tables for the White Sox. And I don't want people to get too excited. Okay. I don't want people to be like, all of a sudden the White Sox are going to be in the deep end of the pool and paying $150 or having $150 million payroll. But it goes back to what we've been talking about all offseason. Can the White Sox compete with a $100 million payroll? I'm going to throw you a curveball here and say, I think Luis Robert now is more guaranteed to be traded than ever. And they're going to have to pay down some of it depending on who's going to float them a better prospect, whether it's the Reds, the Mets, etc. We've seen those reports out there from some of the big writers. I do anticipate at this point Luis Robert to be traded. And I think that frees up so much creativity. I'm going to give you a couple names. I've been giving names all year long.
My question to you is the creativity component here. Okay. Is that when they unload him towards spring training or in the middle of spring training, or are you thinking before?
I'm thinking before the end of possibly, maybe the end of the term, maybe before 2026 is actually a real thing.
Maybe before we put a bow on this thing.
Maybe before we put a bow on this thing. I'm going to give you a couple names, assuming Luis Roberts traded. Okay. They need another pitcher. They need a reliever. I mentioned Kirby Yates in the last podcast as a potential flyer. I'm going to put him as my potential flyer. Somebody like Jose Quintana, bring him back as a veteran starter. It's not going to be, people are going to be like, oh, geez, he's like 35. He keeps pitching for winning organizations, folks.
Hey, anything under a 5, Guff, you take a Jose Quintana, who's the best clubhouse guy ever, who's the Latino pitching version of Jim Thome as far as clubhouse guy. Like, if you have a 4.5 ERA as the number 5 starter and can also, pitch situationally, you got to bring that guy in. 1 year, 5, get that guy over here.
Can I tell you, I'll go back to 2022. Jose Quintana, 32 starts, 2.93. 2023, he was banged up with the Mets, 13 starts, 3.57. 2024, 31 starts, 3.75. Last year, 24 starts, 3.96. You're talking about a 5. This guy's under 4.
We're making the playoffs, pal. We're going to playoffs if we get that guy.
I just want the innings and the veteran leadership, kind of like the Martin Perez. And of course, it's a great way to kind of put a bow on his career, if you will, because he had all of that success, the All-Star with the White Sox. And then it's like, well, what are you going to do in center field? You got the kid from the Rays that has high upside, former top prospect. I think Brooks Baldwin.
I know where you're going. Where you're going right now.
No, you don't. There's no way. Where am I going?
I honestly, I'm a bad baseball fan because I thought for sure you're gonna drop a Cedric Mullins on me, man.
He's already gone. He's in Tampa Bay.
I know.
Here's where you get the White Sox signed Harrison Bader to like a $7-8 million deal.
I love that.
Yeah,
a 1 year. Hey, you know what? Give him a 2 for $15. We'll take him.
You stop giving extra years when you don't need to.
Look, they gave Luis Robert 6.
Well,
I can't handle it anymore.
Chris Getz didn't give Luis Robert 6. Okay.
Hey, yeah, but I will be on my deathbed, and when I'm having my coming to Jesus moment, or I'm sitting there trying to come to terms with everything I've done in life, and I'm going to be like, I just can't understand one thing. Like, I didn't know people got $20 million to try their hardest again. I hate it so bad.
I told you, my car's been warm. I've had to refill it with gas, waiting to take Luis Robert to wherever it happens to be. But I like this. The creativity puts us around $90 million for our roster.
And I know he's gone too, but man, I know that Kenley Jansen's still stinging you. I know it's killing you.
It chaps me because
that gets you right at 100, man. And then we shut it down for the year, and we tell Cap Tell Cap where we going for dinner.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it wouldn't even get you to 100 if you trade Luis Robert and save that $10 million because you're going to give
$10 million surplus.
It's just, yeah. Hey, see, this team gets a lot more interesting coming back to how we started this thing with Mune Murakami, who's now a member of the Chicago White Sox. And if you look up his, career in Japan, 265 home runs in 8 seasons. 265 home runs in 8 seasons. That'll play 36, 28, 39, 56, 31, 33. Last year, he hit 24 in just 69 games. This guy can hit the ball, and it's raw, man. It's real. And I give the White Sox, like, for people saying, oh, they're not spending. We've been saying all year, they're not going to spend in the deep end of the pool. But you just acquired probably the best power bat on the market that remains. That's not Kyle Schwarber. Maybe this is Japanese Kyle Schwarber. Low average, high slug, ton of home runs, maybe not as high as on base, but over those 8 seasons, BA, that's 33 bombs a year.
Any team on planet Earth would take Kyle Schwarber. I don't care if he plays a position, chucks the ball down the left field or right field line, man. If you're going to clobber 40, do what you want.
And he's just the best dude on and off the field that you could ever want. So I think it's great, and I think it's a good Christmas gift for the Chicago White Sox, not just the organization, but if you look around how Major League Baseball, like the ESPN grades every move of the offseason, what do you think the grade was for this move?
I mean, I was so blown away. I thought when we were talking about that last podcast, I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, what are the White Sox going to shell out 70? But the fact they got him for 34 gives you B+ all day. They gave the move an A+. Wow.
They gave the move an A+ because of where this guy was thought of at the beginning, like at the end of the season and into the GM meetings, how the White Sox got it, because their thing is, look, this is the ultimate low risk, high reward. I've said,
oh my gosh, it's crazy.
Even if the guy just ends up coming here for 2 years and hits 20 home runs in each of the 2 years, it's a no loss. There's sponsorship money that comes with it. I looked him up in Japan, dude. He's all over billboards over there. So
yeah. By the way, you forgot to add an additional service fee to the salary cap. There, this is the translator for about 80 to 100.
Well, yeah. Well, he was pretty good, by the way. I watched him on the press coverage. I was like, this guy actually is a legit translator. So, hey,
field your position and be able to pick the ball out of the dirt. If you could do that as a first baseman, you're golden. Hit homer, strike out. Just like when Mydroth or Montgomery just throws a sinker into the dirt and it's bases loaded, 2 outs, and it's the 3rd out, just pick it. Like, you can do that. You could buy yourself a lot of time over there.
And that's why Andrew Vaughn didn't buy himself any time, because the bat wasn't there and he couldn't pick it. And Paul Konerko, to me, was one of the most underrated pickers I've ever seen in my life. So maybe Paulie in spring training gets a little service fee for coming on over to the ranch and help him understand
how you PK.
I never like when I see position, third base / first base / D. Like, that tells me, okay, like, you can hit, but we need to find a place for you somewhere. But the White Sox are penciling him in at first base.
Nice.
They've had again, it's been almost 40 years since they've had a first base problem. It's a great gift. BA, Merry Christmas to you, my friend. Appreciate our relationship, our friendship, and what we're able to provide White Sox fans across the board. And I hope Scarlett gives you enough gifts just in the way her face smiles, because every time I see that kid smile, it makes me happy. And as you know,
you're partial.
I am partial, but she's a spirit animal because we share a birthday. So that's two of us,
man. That's what makes you special. Serendipitous, brother. I appreciate you too, man. Love you, man.
Love you, brother. That puts a wrap on this edition of the Chicago White Sox Recap Podcast, where the White Sox, for the last time, have signed Mune Murakami to a 2-year, $34 million deal and add Sean Newcomb, a high-end left-handed reliever, for $4.5 million. I have a feeling before the new year, we're going to be taping a breaking news podcast. I do.
No doubt. No doubt. Let's do it on the fly. And I want to hear from the fans, man. It's been a while. We'll get some of the Section 108, the 108 boys, or we'll have some fans call in or send you some questions. I miss it.
Let's see what happens. If Luis Robert gets traded, we'll do a ask the fans, open it up to the podcast. BA, nice. Merry Christmas. And remember, it's all brought to you by Sinus and Snoring MD. If you're a snorer, help yourself. Help everybody in your house. Help the guy that's sitting there pointing to himself, because sinusandSnoringMD.com is the place to go. 847-886-0875. Cap was a snorer. He occasionally gets a cat nap in here at the recap office. And thank God he went to sinusandSnoringMD.com, because that problem is no longer a thing. 25 years of experience treating sinus, snoring, allergies, and sleep issues. English, Spanish, and Polish in the locations of Oak Creek, Kenosha, Mount Prospect, Lombard, and monthly Elgin pop-ups. Thank you for watching this edition on YouTube. If you don't already subscribe, make sure you do. Click that notification bell every time we drop a new episode of the podcast. Boom, you get the notification. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas to you and yours, whether you're listening on audio form or watching here on YouTube. This has been the White Sox Recap Podcast here on the Recap channel on YouTube. BA, Guff, we'll see you next time. Take that.